Hello there, Dan over at Loxo with a quick look at our new required fields feature that we're rolling out today. I think you're going to love it. It's a quick way to configure which fields are required when you're adding a person into your database of people in Loxo, and also when you're adding a job into your database of jobs in the Jobs tab. It's very intuitive, and we'll begin by going to the settings page. So when you're logged in, if you're an admin, on the left-hand side on the navigation bar, click on the button at the lower left with your initials and choose Settings. On the Settings page down below, under My Agency, you'll choose Custom Validations. And this is where you're going to be able to configure which of those fields are required when a person is being added into your database of people, and also which fields are required when a job is added into your database of jobs. Now you'll notice that for a person, the name field is always required. So that's hardwired into the product and you cannot toggle that off. But below that, you can decide which of the fields are going to be required. For example, location, maybe you want required, or for example, an email address, or down below, maybe their current job title, or who on your team referred them, or maybe what company they're with, this kind of thing. So you decide which of these fields to toggle on to make them required. Now notice to the right, you can also assign a minimum length requirement in terms of the characters that are typed in the field. So under location, if you want to set a minimum length requirement of 10 characters, for example, you can easily do that, right? Now also notice down below, you'll have a button called Add New Validation. So this is where if you've got any custom fields that have been created for your account, you'll be able to access those, like age, for example. Hit age here and it adds it, and now I can toggle this to make this also a required field when a person is being added. Same story down below with jobs. So with a job that you're adding into your account, the fundamental thing that we need that's always required is the job title. So that's hardwired. You cannot turn that off. But maybe you also want to make the job description required. And down below here, maybe there's some other bits of information that you want to be required, like who on your team is the owner, or what country are they in, this kind of thing. So again, you'll toggle which of the buttons here you want to be required fields when a job is being added. And to the right again, you can decide if you want to assign a minimum length for the answer field, right? So for description, maybe you want at least 25 characters, or so you can set it there appropriately so that when they're adding the job description, they're aware of that parameter, right? Now, if you configure any of these fields to be required, just make sure that you remember to hit the save button at the upper right to save these changes onto your account. Now, let's talk next about where exactly is this enforced, so to speak? Well, primarily when you're adding a person or when you're adding a job. So let's go over to people for a moment and click on the blue add button up here at the upper right and choose add person. You remember that from the 101 training, I'm sure. And it opens up this box here where you can see the fields that are to be required when you're adding a person into your database. Again, you'll see the red asterisk next to each of the fields that are required here. And of course, the logic is that if you don't fill out all the fields with the red asterisk, you won't be able to click the create button to save this profile into your database, right? And in fact, when you hover over it, as you can see, it shows you which of the required fields are missing in this situation. It's exactly the same story when you're adding a job on the Jobs tab. So if you go to Jobs, hit the blue Add button to create a new job. Again, you guys remember this from the 101 training. You'll immediately be able to see on the job creation page which are the required fields as you work your way down. All right, so very intuitive process to configure which of those fields you want required, and for that to be apparent to the person when they're adding a job or a person into your database. Now, one final caveat before we wrap up things here, and that is that when users are on a person's profile page or they're on a job page and they're editing or adding information onto that page going forward, they will be prevented from removing any required fields that have been added. So they won't be able to, inadvertently remove required fields going forward. Let us know over at support if you have any questions or feedback about the new required fields feature. And thank you very much for taking the time out to watch this training video.